Hi all, I'm Ben, the creator of Final Factory. Today I'm going to be going over all the exciting new changes coming to the game in the Foundations update. I've tried to jam-pack this update with new content, as well as pave the way for the ultimate vision I have for Final Factory, as we make our way to the 1.0 release. I've added an upgrade planner to the game, which can be found in the new Quick Buttons menu near the minimap. You can currently select up to 3 different item types to apply upgrade tasks to. Simply choose what structures you'd like to swap out, press begin, then mass select structures in the map to apply the swaps. Available construction bots from your fleet or from the network will come by and carry out the swap, assuming you have target items available in a valid inventory. This should vastly improve the game's playability as you progress through the tech tree. No more manually deleting and replacing structures throughout the game. As part of this change, you can now swap out individual structures too, by simply placing a swappable blueprint over them. Like in this example where I am replacing a Tier 1 connector with a Tier 2 high energy connector. One of the biggest additions in this update are the new Stellar tier structures. I've added Tier 3 assemblers, ship assemblers, and printers to really boost your late game production capabilities. The larger Tier 2 and Tier 3 structures also come with an inherent production bonus. Tier 2 buildings now have a 5% production bonus, and Tier 3 buildings have a 10% bonus, making them well worth the upgrade. In addition, Tier 2 and Tier 3 production buildings are the same size, and thus can be upgraded. I've added new tiers for connectors, inserters, mass drivers, cargo drones, station cores, and rocket adapters as well. The tech tree itself has been significantly rebalanced to spread out the most impactful upgrades throughout the game, to help facilitate progression in a more motivating and satisfying way. Power, heat, and stability requirements for many buildings have been rebalanced significantly as well. The power transmission system has been completely reimagined in this update. I've added Tier 1 and Tier 2 power distributors to the game, which effectively replace the old Tier 1 power transmitters. These power distributors can send excess power to another target power distributor in any direction, similar to how mass drivers work. This gives you a lot more flexibility in how you design your power grid across stations. Heat management is a crucial part of running an efficient factory, so I've added some new tools to help. Heat transmitters will now transmit heat to a heat receiver in a line, similar to how the old power transmitters work. For those of you struggling with heat dissipation, especially in the late game, I've added the hydropower radiator. This structure dissipates a huge amount of heat when given ice, and as a bonus, generates 2 kilowatts of power per 1 degree cooled. The new Tier 3 station core also helps with heat management and power generation. This powerful Tier 3 structure provides a massive amount of inherent stability, heat consumption, and power generation to an entire station, reducing the need for players to worry about smaller amounts of heat and power in the late game, which I see as a puzzle that is largely solved by this point in the game. I've made several improvements to how stations are built and managed. Mass drivers and power distributors now retain their relative targets in blueprints, so you won't have to reset their targets after placing a new blueprint. This should make duplicating complex stations much simpler. Asteroid tiles are now normalized so they take up a circular radius. This means you can copy and paste the same mining station or research station design across different asteroids without having to redesign for each one. I've also reworked how struts affect stability. Struts now reduce the stability of their connected structures by 1 on both ends, up to a maximum of those structures' stability cost. My hope is that this makes struts easier to reason about intuitively. I've also added several new filter options for connectors, inserters, and mass drivers. You can now filter in broad categories or for specific items, as well as all or none. A whole new UI panel has been added for this functionality. And finally, to help with UI clutter, all the quick controls have been packed into a hideable menu button near the minimap, and redundant toggles have been removed. There's plenty of new content for combat and exploration enthusiasts. I've added the Ancient Guardian boss as a formidable new challenge, guarding the new Antimatter Nexus megastructure. Activating the Nexus will provide a substantial power boost to nearby antimatter power stations. Weapons and fleet content have been re-engineered, so that enemies can now have multiple weapons and their own fleets, opening the door for exciting new boss encounters in future updates. Stay tuned for more bosses and helpful megastructures. Additionally, enemies now lead their shots to account for players circling and strafing around, so you'll need to be a little bit more strategic in combat. I've also changed how your fleet moves around you. Combat units will now try to stay slightly ahead of you as you explore, with knights trying to be in front of you in particular. This should make exploration feel more natural and provide better protection as you venture into unknown territory. As a bonus, I've also revamped the models for all the enemies, enemy structures, and many projectiles, including the player plasma bolt. To make the early game feel less grindy, I've reduced the craft time of AI controller units, medium density structures, and low density structures by 50%. This should make early game handcrafting much less of a chore. Additionally, organic compounds no longer cost organic compounds to craft, removing that circular dependency. Instead, greenhouses now cost organic compounds to craft, which should simplify jump-starting your organic compound factory. Last, but certainly not least, I've made significant performance improvements across the board. The station grid calculation steps are now split across 8 updates, which should substantially reduce CPU load for larger factories. Bots on the network have had their logic split over 10 updates, greatly reducing CPU load as well. Many mono behaviors have had their performance improved, reducing load on the main thread in particular. Most large map items have had their grid tiles calculated in a different way, which will reduce the save file sizes. I've also continued massive refactors to support fixed time step and deterministic system logic to prepare for future multiplayer functionality. This included implementing a whole new test case framework to aid with testing determinism. On the technical side, the game has been updated to Unity 6 and the latest entities packages, which should provide better stability and performance overall. That covers the major changes in the Foundations update. This update is named to denote the important groundwork being laid for the long-term health of Final Factory. So much new fundamental content has been added, as well as quality of life improvements and substantial performance enhancements. With the changes to support bosses and map items, I also plan to continue adding fun exploration content in the form of new artifacts, more special structures that provide bonuses, and more bosses guarding them. Additionally, so much technical groundwork has been laid for the multiplayer update as part of Foundations. My vision is to have a great exploration game alongside the factory game that synergizes with each other, and thus giving people with different gaming tastes worthwhile goals in a multiplayer session. That said, my primary focus is to always make a great automation game, so exploration is always designed with how it affects the factory in mind. I'm really excited about how these improvements are shaping the game and laying the groundwork for future updates. Lastly, and as always, I want to thank my amazing community of dedicated fans of the game. Every big patch, the community comes together to playtest and help me find bugs and give critical feedback on the game. As a mostly solo developer, I have immense gratitude towards all of you who helped make the game what it is. I couldn't do it without you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.